The okay, we can start now, I guess. Is that okay with you, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, so I'm calling this meeting to order. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Would Councilor McLaren is moving that and Mr. Knox is seconding it. And so any additions, deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda? Thank you. Now we have item 3, confirmation of the minutes for October 19th, 2020. So any comments on the minutes? I have a mover. And moved by Ms. Wallace, second by Mr. Storms. Thank you. All those in favor of the minutes? Okay. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'm moving on here. We don't have any delegations. We don't have any briefings. So we're at item 7, business. There are no new appeals. And we're with the item 542 Victoria Street. So, as we usually do, we'll ask staff to update us on what the situation is there, please.
Would Mr. Hazel or Ms. Walker please raise their hand and we'll let you speak, whoever wishes to address the community.
Participants.
Sorry, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. As of this point, we haven't received our maintenance plan for how everything's going to be done and completed at 544 Victoria Street.
We're doing 542 right at the moment.
542, sorry. All photos have been provided as well to Raymond.
Oh, and are they up to date photos?
Everything from, yes, they should be, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, perhaps you can take us through that verbally while the clerk, if they're able to do this, can show us the photos.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe Ms. Walker indicated that the photos were provided to Mr. Mack, the appellant. I do not believe that we were circulated the photos beforehand. I suspect there probably aren't new photos given the situation that was described the last time we met, but perhaps staff can clarify that.
Okay, I'm just following the usual process. Okay, Ms. Walker, could you proceed, please?
Due to the fact that we haven't received anything from Raymond, we are asking that it be confirmed with the dates provided.
Well, usually what we receive is a description of what is has been done and what has yet to be done.
The only work that has been completed was anything that was issued as the yards order originally. Anything other than that has not been completed. No new work has been done.
Okay. Okay, I'll move on to the committee if there are any questions. I'll remind the committee that originally we were to get some paperwork regarding the eviction of the people in the house right now were said to be squatters. And Mr. Clerk, did we receive that paperwork?
No, to my knowledge, Mr. Chair, we have not. I see Mr. Hazel has raised his hand, so perhaps he has some additional information that he can share before we proceed to the committee.
Okay. Mr. Hazel.
Through you, your chair. So just to add some comments to Officer Walker's description. Since our last meeting, the decision of the committee was to provide the issuing officer and the appeals committee a maintenance plan by November 15th, and also to provide some sort of documentation or evidence in relation to the landlord-tenant board. Since the date of the last appeals committee, I did have a follow-up email that I sent to the property owner to advise him of the requirements of the decision. In addition to that, we did provide a copy of the decision to the property owner as well. Officer Walker sent all the requested photos of what items were required to be repaired at both properties. And since those communications, which my email was sent in October, on October 19th, we have not received any updates from the property owner about a maintenance plan or any work that's been completed between that time and this time. So essentially, in layman's terms, the file would be status quo. And to our knowledge, all the deficiencies at the property would still remain in place. I see that Mr. Mack is here as in the waiting room, and perhaps he can provide us with an update on the reasons why a maintenance plan has not been submitted yet. And if he does have any of the landlord-tenant documentation for evidence. Failing to provide, from our standpoint, failing to provide us an adequate summary as requested, the municipality would be requesting that we confirm the orders for both properties today. That's the only comments I have at this point.
Thank you. So with the committee's permission, I will ask Mr. Mock what the situation is from his point of view. Mr. Mock, please.
Hi, good afternoon. The 542 Victoria site has been totally evicted. Sheriff was there, police was called upon, and this just happened late last week. As for 544 Victoria, it should be there by early next week with the sheriff going to evict. I think there's a couple of people living there. So I would say by the end of next week, everyone should be removed. And that is the time I will plan on the work in terms of fixing up the place. Mind you that I believe that the exterior of the window frame, if I'm correct, has been painted a little bit. Obviously, the officers did not go and check. I did not tell them at the same time too, so they don't have up-to-date information. So that's all the current information I have. Eviction should be done by the end of next week, because according to lawyer, after they're evicted, they do get 3 days to remove all the items, the personal items. So I would say by early December, I would have a plan what to do in terms of the work that's required inside the house and outside of the house. Order has been approved already. One has been totally evicted, 542 Victoria. It's just a 544 Victoria because it's 2 different units. That one has an order that was approved a little bit later. So we cannot apply for a sheriff to be on site to evict the occupants until next week.
Right. Okay, any questions of Mr. Mock? I guess the question is why you did not submit the plan of maintenance that you agreed to do so at the last meeting.
First of all, when there's occupants inside the house, we can't even get access to it. How do we go in and assess what's the issue and the timeline? We cannot get people to go in. We just got people removed at 542 Victoria last week, Friday to be exact. Hence, we are planning to get people in tomorrow to look at 542 Victoria site first. 544, it will be likely after everyone is evicted, probably end of November. That's when we can go and take a look at it to have a game plan.
Just a second, I'm making a note. So just raise your hands if you've got questions, folks. So, so you heard what staff have to say, that you didn't submit the plan, although it could have been on the outside, and what you did know about the inside. And for either house, and we didn't get the paperwork for the eviction, although apparently that was going on. So they're recommending that we just enforce this order. What do you have as alternative?
You're asking me what's the alternative?
I am, yes.
The alternative would be what I just said, which I plan to, well, which will be sending people in tomorrow to assess the situation at 542 Victoria, because like I said before, we can't even get in. So how do I give you guys a plan what to do in the interior? Just based on the pictures that Ebony has sent me, it doesn't really tell me much, right? I need to have people go in and take a look to give you a fair timeline on when things can be done. And 544, we will have access to it next week, I hope, once everyone has been evicted. And once again, we would have to give them up to 3 days to have all the stuff removed. And once everything is removed, that's when we are going to send people in. Hence the case for 542 Victoria, which has been done. Now we're just waiting for 544 Victoria, which will be at a slightly later date.
Okay, so, okay, if the committee's fine with this, I'm going to go back to staff and see what their response to that is, since some of this is probably news to them. Okay, I see general agreement. So Mr. Hazel, could you give us your response to that, please?
For sure, through you, your chair. Based on the comments that we just received from the property owner, it would be clear to me that it seems that we have some non-compliance with the decision that was provided by the committee at the last meeting. It was quite clear that a maintenance plan was to be supplied to the issuing officer or to the committee, as well as additional validation or proof of the LTV process. Further to that, under the LTV legislation, it provides a property owner with the ability to issue a 24-hour notice to advise occupants or tenants that they're going to enter the property for such things as inspections of maintenance. For safety issues and safety concerns, the property owner could have contacted the police to keep the peace during that process. And we feel that there is adequate and suffice timeframes for the property owner to achieve that and to have a due diligent report prepared for this meeting today. So based on those elements, I think from the city's and the municipality standpoint, we would deem that the decision that was issued by the committee was not adhered to. And based on the comments, we would still be recommending that the orders be confirmed and we go forward with the next parts of our process. Subject to any questions.
Thank you. So I open this up to the committee. I'm looking for remarks or questions. I don't want to feel like I'm doing this. Okay. Ms. Willis.
So my only comment would be that I think there was ample time for the documentation we requested to be provided. The decision was pretty clear. And it was just the submission of some documentation, a photocopy of the proceedings from the landlord tenant board and an estimate on the exterior. I think work could have been provided. So I'm not satisfied. I think if we extend for another month, what's the difference going to be? So I'm leaning towards confirming the order.
What happened? Okay, we've heard from Ms. Willis. Any other comments from the committee? Councillor McLaren? Did you have your hand up there?
I generally agree with Ms. Wallace. I think that there should have been a little bit of more effort. It feels like the order was given and virtually ignored. We set aside some simple requests that were supposed to have been made, fulfilled, knowing that they couldn't enter the building, assuming they couldn't enter the building. Now I understand it's been there for them to go in. It seems that the very bare minimums were not followed. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I'll let you know, Ms. Councillor McLaren, your audio is breaking up badly. Okay. Mr. Knox, did you have anything? Hello?
I'm also in agreement with Ms. Wallace and Councillor McLaren. Ample time was applied.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Storms, I don't see him. I think he's out there. It just, we can't see him. So I would, Mr. Clerk, can we go to the motion now?
Yes, if that's the will of the committee. Mr. Storms was having some technical challenges, but we are able to proceed without him as there is quorum.
Okay, thank you. I would look for, therefore, for a motion from the committee to uphold the order regarding 542 and we have to do them separately. 542 Victoria Street. Mr. Knox makes that motion. Who will second? Councillor McLaren will second. Any comment? Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. And so that passes. So on 544 Victoria Street, as I understand it, the circumstances are more or less the same. The eviction has not taken place yet. But it's supposed to happen next week. We all heard that. So does the committee have any further comment regarding 544 Victoria? Seeing none, I will look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, just
Yep.
as a matter of process, we should probably check in with the appellant and staff just to see if they have any additional comments.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Fair enough. The appellant had spoken to it already, but I understand. You're right. So, Mr. Mock, do you have any other comment regarding 544 Victoria Street?
Well, basically, I'm doing my best effort. Obviously, as an owner, I want it fixed too. I want tenants to go back in. If you guys can have some leniency on it, just because I am doing, well, again, I may not have done exactly what you folks have asked for. But like I said before, the interior, I did not know that we can just go in like that, just because we have been kicked out a few times, okay, with force. So all in all, I'm sure they have their side of the story in terms of the officers. I have my side of the story, but at the end of the day, I definitely want them evicted. I want to put them up to standard and rent it out. I'm not here trying to cause trouble or any kind of commotion, because it's not beneficial to me. It's not beneficial to you folks to spend the time listening to me. So all I'm saying is I'm doing it in good faith, and I do plan to have the people to start doing work at 542 Victoria as well as 544 Victoria in December. Actually, the work can start at 542 Victoria as soon as this week. So in terms of, I have a question. I know that Ebony know that there were occupants at 542, 544 Victoria. She first gave an order on 542 Victoria, but knowing 544 Victoria, there's illegal occupants, she still went in without like my permission to go in and do all the inspection whatsoever, despite those occupants are illegally squatting on the premise. Like, what is the legal issue on that? Just because I wouldn't have proved it, because those are not even my tenants. She just walk in just because the occupants or the squatters say, we're not happy with it. We want to cause Mr. Mac trouble, so come in. But the city of Kingston knows about the occupants at both sides already. They did put a charge on 542 side, but before they put a 544 charge on 544 side, they have knowledge, both Dan and Ebony, that there are illegal occupants in there, and we're trying to evict them. Like, at least they should have respected the owner and tell them in advance, well, and let them know, you know what, we're still going in regardless whether there's illegal occupants or not. But I think it's just unfair to the owner, because someone has been squatting there, and they just, seems to me, they just side with the squatters and just go right in.
Well, I can tell you this, okay? And I've had this happen to myself in property management. The city is concerned with the integrity and shape, the maintenance of the building. What the legal relationship is between you and the people inside is a secondary point of view from the city's point of view. Okay, because that's a landlord-tenant board issue, the Residential Tenancy Act issue. It is not a property standards issue. So when someone calls the city will go in, and I understand your frustration, because I've had people call when I was in charge of buildings, and they never told me at all what the problem was. They reported it to the city. So is that's no fun, okay? But the city has, the reason it does that is because sometimes tenants can be, or in my case, members of co-ops can be intimidated by the management or the owners or whoever. So that's my understanding of it. And so the city was not doing anything it wouldn't normally do regarding property standards that wouldn't be applied to anyone else. So I'm talking as someone who, it can be infuriating because you've never had a chance to do anything about it, but that's not the function of the property standards department. Okay, that's an issue between the landlord and tenant or member, the people in the building. So having said that, I don't know if Mr. Hazel has anything you would like to add to that.
Sorry, before Dan speak, can I just have one more thing to talk about? You said tenant. I agree, your case is tenant. My case is not even tenant. They took over the house.
That doesn't, but as I said, Mr. Mack, that doesn't matter. They're the occupants. And I agree that it's, well, if you got an eviction, I guess we could draw the conclusion that they were there illegally. It doesn't matter as far as property standards is concerned, because our concern as a committee and as a department is on the condition of the property. The legal relationship between you and the occupants is another matter, which we don't have jurisdiction over. And the city, frankly, doesn't have jurisdiction over. So the city is just doing the job it has been charged with under the Municipal Act, okay? And
so I understand. So I can, hypothetically speaking, I can go into someone's house, just say Dan's house, call upon the city, and they go for inspection, and then found out Dan's house has some problem just because I'm in there just to make the complaint, and that's perfectly fine. Like, I am just trying to understand.
well, you can't go into somebody else's house without 24-hour notice. Let's be clear about that first, okay? And so All right.
Anyway, I know it's just very frustrating. I'm not trying to put the onus.
No,
on
no, I
anyone.
understand, and I understand your frustration, especially in this circumstance. But there are two different jurisdictions here about two different matters.
Okay, totally understood. So, yeah, just in conclusion, I'm doing in good faith. I spent thousands of dollars with the eviction, with the what you call that, with the lawyer, which we got already. I spent hundreds of dollars to get the yards cleaned up that was caused by those occupants. Yes, you can say it's not sufficient faith, good faith. It's all different. It's just subjective. It's different perspective. But at the end of the day, like I said, my only goal is to get everything all completely done before the end of the year, because I want it rented out too. So I hope you folks would consider that. I may not have submitted the plan as you have requested because I can send people in, and I did not know what Dan has said. Give a 24-hour notice and you can just walk in like that, because I had agents that tried to go in, they were all kicked out by force.
Okay, so I think you put your finger on it. It's good faith. If you don't get back to the city clerk or the property standards department when they ask you to, and when they supplied you information, then you allow those parties to draw their own conclusions. And unfortunately, the experience of the department and the committee is people aren't doing as requested of them. It's very hard to have faith that they're actually going to carry out what they say as well. We don't know, but it makes it difficult. So that's what's going on here as far as that's concerned. I think what you could have done is got back in touch with them and said, this is what I see as my problem. And I think the department would have said, do what you can. Because as you said, Ms. Walker was in one of those buildings and she was also examining the external elements. And then, you do what you can. And then people could see, oh, well, good faith here. But we didn't get that. Okay, I think that's part of the situation here. And so if we pass a motion to enforce the order, you will have a chance to fix it up, and you keep in touch with the officer and or Mr. Hazel, and they will guide you. They just want to see it get done too. Okay, that makes your life a lot easier. And it means we can avoid legal aspects. Okay, so I'm going to be, I think that's all that can be said about this, unless Mr. Hazel has something he'd like to say. Not seeing anything. I'll go back to the committee. I believe we have a motion on the floor, Mr. Clerk.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe Dan was just a mere moment away from commenting.
Oh, okay. He can go ahead if there's something he wants to add.
Thank you. Through your chair, I just want to point out some procedural points with our property standards process. For interior-based complaints, we require a complaint form be submitted by an occupant or a tenant that is signed and validated. And then to support us following up on occupant complaints, it is defined within the property standards bylaw as any person or persons over the age of 18 who appears to be in possession of the property. The occupant that submitted this complaint form did fit that definition, which allowed us to go forward within our parameters of our process. In addition to some of the comments that Mr. Mack had made about not being able to get into the property, the officer supplied Mr. Mack with all the photographs of the deficiencies. And quite simply, he could have provided those photographs to a carpenter and asked, based on the photographs, for some sort of maintenance plan without even needing to go into the unit. So it was achievable. It just seems to me that there was not a desire to want to complete that part of the process.
Okay, thank you. I think that's in line with my comments as well. So, Mr. Clerk, do we have a motion on the floor regarding 544 Victoria Street?
No, we do not, Mr. Chair.
Pardon?
We do not have a motion on the floor.
Okay, so that's what I'm looking for now. A motion to uphold the order for 544 Victoria Street. Ms. Willis, seconded by Councillor McLaren. Any comments from the committee? All those in favor of the motion? Thank you very much. And so that passes, and we'll go on with the meeting from there. Thank you.
Sorry, before I go, what is going to happen now? Because like I said, I plan to fix it up as soon as possible. Yes, it's my fault that I did not put in whatever schedules or plan that you guys have asked for. Who do I work with now and what's going to happen next? Just because this is my first time and I hope this is my only time, I don't even know all these procedures, how the city of Kingston works with occupants, how eviction works. Everything is a learning process to me. Yes, my fault that I did not submit the plan.
Well, we appreciate that, Mr. Mack. Mr. Hazelwood, perhaps, I don't know if we should be doing this during the meeting, but can you briefly explain to Mr. Mack what follows? Please.
Yes, through your chair. So from a procedural standpoint, at this point of our property standards process, our next step would be to send the property owner something called a pre-summons letter with a final date for compliance. That is determined by the issuing officer based on what they feel is appropriate. On that date and time when the final date of compliance would come, we would complete an inspection to the best of our ability and determine if the property standard orders have been complied with or not. Any failure to comply with the property standard orders in its entirety at that point, we would then go to the final step in our process, which is to issue charges under the property standards bylaw through the Building Code of Ontario. And those would be applied or issued to the property owner.
Right. So I think the important part of that, Mr. Mack, is that staff are going to give you a certain amount of time to get things in order. And that I would produce that maintenance plan, because that would show good faith, and let them know if the eviction has taken place at 544 Victoria. Just keep them in the loop and they'll work with you. City doesn't want to be heavy-handed or anything. They just want the work to get done. So like you and like the committee. So I hope that's satisfactory for the moment. If you have other questions, you can call Mr. Hazel or Ms. Walker, and I'm sure they can let you know.
Okay, that's
okay. So you know immediately what you need to do, right? So thank you. And like I said, we're not unsympathetic, but we do have a job to do, as does the department. So item 8, motions, we have none. 9, notices of motion. I don't have any. And other business, I believe there's none. No correspondence. The date and time of the next meeting is December 12th, 2020 at 12 p.m. if needed. And so that brings us to item 13, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Just a sec, one sec. I saw the clerk's thing flash.
Oh, I think Mr. Storms wanted to mention something.
Sure, go ahead.
No, he's okay.
Are you sure? Okay.
So I will mention at this time, it does not appear that there will be a December meeting. We're a few weeks away from the deadline, but there's nothing on the docket as of yet. As I previously mentioned at the start of the meeting, the nominations meeting is on Wednesday. The results from that meeting go to council in early December. After council makes their decision on the appointments, I will let the public members know whether or not they're remaining on the committee, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Okay, good. So I know everybody applied to be reappointed, and I can't say, at this point, I can't really say anything because I'm the chair of the nominations committee, but thank you. So we'll go from there. And I'm only one vote of 5 or 6, so Let's keep our fingers crossed. So now we had a motion to adjourn. Councillor, Mr. Storms, seconded by Mr. Knox. All those in favor? Thank you, that passes. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye for now.